What's up, Spotlight? Seth here with Sebastian Lane. He is a prominent blues player in the area, aspiring heart surgeon, and just overall badass. How's it going? Thanks for coming in.
It's good. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Now, we just got done with your performances. I love smoothie blues, as I like to call them. I don't know if that's a great term for it.
Smooth blues.
Smooth blues. That's fine. So how'd you get started in the whole blues scene? Because I know that you've got a relatively famous family in the blues scene right now.
Yeah, so I've just been playing since I was a little kid, pretty much. Grew up in a household full of blues musicians. Grandpa's Jimmy Rogers, so he grew up in Mississippi, but ended up moving to Chicago with that whole crew, Muddy Waters and all those guys of the Southern blues musicians. And I was just kind of exposed to that genre of music since I was a kid. And so my dad, I wouldn't say he never forced me to play. He almost didn't want me to play because he didn't want me to go down the musician route because
Sure.
I know how hard it is and that kind of thing. But he never really gave me lessons or anything. I just kind of picked it up by ear. So that's kind of how it all happened, I guess.
So you picked up a guitar, but also decided to grab some medical books to
Yeah.
kind of balance it out. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to be a musician, but I'm going to be a doctor too.
Yeah. Well, so the reasoning behind that is just when I was a little kid, our whole family kind of lived together. Eventually, my dad and my mom moved into an apartment outside of my grandparents' house, and then a couple of years later, my grandpa passed away. He died from colon cancer, and then that just kind of sparked my interest in medicine and understanding cancer and that kind of stuff. And then just spent elementary school, middle school, high school learning about it and doing what I had to do to get into college and medical school. So.
Now, balancing a regular job or a regular school schedule with trying to be an active musician, as one who's active as you are, how do you balance medical school?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. I mean, it's taken some sacrifices and not maybe being the top person in my class and that kind of thing and being able to do everything that I want to do with medicine, and then also sacrificing in music on not being able to do huge national tours and going doing that kind of thing. So the way I do it is basically just weekend warrior it kind of things. Hit the books during the week unless I have a random show that pops up during the week. Do the shows on the weekends, and then that's how we do it. And then as far as recording and stuff, when we put together our album, we just did it in 3 days. So.
Do you guys do any touring or anything like that?
We haven't done a big national tour. Mostly what we've done is we had a little bit of a record release kind of thing that we did with Marcus King Band, and then that's pretty much about it as far as recent national touring. So That's about it.
So you get around kind of in the surrounding area and just keep it.
Yeah,
keep it
Midwest. But as soon as I have more time to be able to do it, which I'm not sure when that's going to be, we're branching out. We've been kind of communicating with a bunch of different artists, like Chris Tone off my album. And then I was just in Austin actually this last week, and I spent some time with Gary Clark and the Peterson brothers, Yves Monsees, and all those people just networking. And they want to bring us down to come do a southern tour through Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So we'll see what happens.
When's that?
So right now we're just kind of in the figuring it out phase for 2019. Probably 2019, but
okay.
Yeah.
Now, how would you say that the blues scene is in Omaha? Because we're obviously Spotlight started covering metal very prominently. That was the bulk of our audience, and we're trying to branch out, but I guess maybe we just don't know where to look quite yet.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How healthy do you feel the blues coverage is around here?
I feel it's actually surprisingly amazing. It's kind of brought me in, and it's made it feel like home, to be honest. When I first moved to Omaha, it was 3 going on 4 years ago now. And I was just jamming around a Guitar Center or whatever, checking out some stuff there. And then that's when I met my rhythm and lead player, Ben Curran, and he was working there at the time. And he just told me, he's like, yeah, come down. At the time, there was this place called the 21st Saloon, and that's where they hosted all the blues jams or whatever. And so initially I was I'm kind of busy because that's when I had first started medical school here. And then I went back in another time. He's like, dude, you didn't come. Dude, seriously, it's pretty good. You should come check it out. And I was like, all right. So I went, and then there's all these kids there playing. And then I got to meet guys like Hector Anchondo, who holds it down for Omaha blues scene as well. And then there's so many different cats. And then the Blues Ed program that comes through the Omaha Blues Society, they basically funnel these kids that are elementary, middle school, high school kids interested in blues music, and they've got national recognition now as being one of the best programs in the country. So pretty cool.
So it's not hiding anymore. Would you say that it was a little bit, or
I mean,
it's
yeah, I
kind
think
of
so.
hard to catch on to?
I think it might have been. I mean, in Lincoln, there was like the Zoo Bar, and that's kind of like a place where all the old blues guys would come stop in. My grandpa played there back in the 70s and 80s, 90s, and then my dad's played there too. So that was kind of a little bit of a stomping ground. And then just talking to some people, there's blues fans in Omaha. It's just kind of like, it's just not as prominent, but we're getting there.
No, I love blues. I grew up listening to that. My parents were kind of folk singers.
Nice.
They did some guitar work, but there was a lot of blues influence and stuff like that. So
Nice.
I grew up listening to that kind of stuff, and hearing this, it was wonderful.
Thanks. It's kind of like a fusion blues rocky kind of stuff. But.
Yeah. We are not as active on social media as we probably should be, considering our entire business is social media.
Man, I feel you. For me, like, I honestly hate social media, but as far as music, it's just like you have to be on there nowadays.
And it's not even hating social media; it's hating that how it feels to
100%.
be forced to participate in
Exactly.
it. Especially in the music industry, the social media is the most important.
Yeah, it's
without
insane.
a doubt. And I think that's the part that most musicians, myself included, don't like about it, is that it is such a requirement now.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Like, how do you feel you've done with it so far? Like,
well, I mean, so basically, I take the initiative to try to like go out and do like promoting our shows and that kind of thing because to make it, I guess, in the industry, lots of people are waiting for like that call or like a big opportunity and that kind of thing. But you really just have to make it yourself. Like this is literally the exact conversation I had with Gary Clark the other night. He's like, man, like you're a solid player. You really have what it takes. But honestly, you just need to keep carving your own path. Like no one can hold your hand. What he did is he played for many years in Austin, Texas, built up his reputation. Got a phone call from Doyle Bramhall one day to go. He got a phone call from Doyle saying, "Hey, you might get a letter in the mail from Eric Clapton to play Crossroads." So that was like his bigger break, but still, it was like 10 years of investing his time on the scene, more than 10 years,
and also in a completely different time.
Yeah, and exactly a whole different time back then. Like it was on the come up, and now I mean, blues is still kind of around, but now it's kind of drifting more towards like a rocky kind of vibe. But I'd rather not like label myself, just do what I do naturally.
Yeah, play what you end up writing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, this is a little too rocky for. There's a little too rock for what I do.
Yeah.
I shouldn't put that
I
in
just
there.
play
Do
it.
it.
Exactly. I'll just play it.
Now, would you? I don't know where I was going to go with that. I was going to say, because I never want to ask, well, what are your influences? Because it's such a boring question. But
that's the whole point of blues.
Yeah.
Play what you feel.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So that's also the other difference maker. Like now with like YouTube and stuff, you see all these crazy guitarists and like there's kids that are like 10 and 12 and they're like shredders, like shredding, like insane and that kind of stuff. But then also you just have to realize like sometimes you can play one note and it will touch a million people more than it would you shredding 1,000 notes. So like sometimes I find like a happy medium, but I know like with the background in like metal.
Fair enough.
Sometimes it can be better, I guess.
What do you jam out to when you're in the car?
Ooh, so lately, honestly, I've been on a pretty big Marcus King kick, and Doyle Bramhall just released his new album, and his record's pretty sweet. Obviously, listening to Gary. Gary is going to come out with a new album soon, so hopefully that'll be in there. But it's been a lot of Marcus King.
Anything outside of blues?
And then outside of blues.
Like if it's not blues, what's going to be your go-to?
I do listen to some like rap and hip hop and that kind of stuff because it's fun to listen to in the car, for sure. There's a kid named Masego, and I had like been in communication with him before he like really blew up, but now he's become like pretty famous. And what he does, he's like a saxophone player, but he's also a pretty good producer and singer. And so he does he calls it, what is it, jazz, trap jazz, and so it's like hip hop. It's like hip hop jazz, but it's actually pretty cool. So that's been fun. Masego, Tom Mish, FKJ, French Kiwi Juice,
good deal.
All those cats.
Now, how would you describe your guys' stage show? Like, because I mean, you were mentioning a lot of people that you're writing with. I know that you play with a full band.
Yeah.
How did the whole, like, who all's in the group? How did it come together?
It's cool. So, like I was mentioning, Ben Curran plays lead/rhythm guitar with us. And then my drummer's name's Kevin Fries. Most of them are all from Omaha or Lincoln. And then bass player is Dane Armhurst. And then occasionally we'll have Mitch Town. He's a keyboard player here. He was on our album, and he'll sit in if he's not busy playing other shows because he plays a lot of different with a lot of different artists. And then recently we've had this girl named Grace Calderon that's come up and played saxophone with us, but we're looking to incorporating like a horn section. So basically our show concept is I mean, we just go out there and we have fun. Like, we just have fun on stage playing music that we love. We do a lot of originals. We do some covers and stuff. Some, like, a couple covers we do is, like, Voodoo Child, and, like, Catfish. Yeah, Voodoo Child. Well, everyone does Voodoo Child.
Jimi Hendrix is that. That's
But we make it funky a little bit. We do kind of Eric Gale's version, and then we throw a little AC/DC in there and a little Led Zeppelin.
I committed a cardinal sin for Voodoo Child for a while because the first version of that song I actually heard was Stevie Ray Vaughan playing.
Oh
it.
yeah.
And I was really young, and I thought,
it's a Stevie Ray Vaughan song.
Yeah, I thought it was a Stevie Ray Vaughan song.
Dude, you'd be surprised how many times I've heard that.
Yeah, somebody had to correct. Somebody played me like another live version where he said, "This one's for Jimmy."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh. And then you listen to the
because
Hendrix
people
version.
had told me, I was like, "Isn't that that's a Jimi Hendrix song?" I was like, "No, man, I heard it." It's a Stevie. And then I hear that, and I'm like, "Oh crap."
No, yeah, Stevie got his stuff from Hendrix for that, but he did make it his own though, and that's why a lot of people.
Yeah, I had to eat crow on that one though.
But it's okay. There's lots of cool versions of that song out there. But call him Samson.
So tell me about your gear, because normally when you walk into a blues show, you're gonna see tellies, you're gonna see some strats. It was a gorgeous telly that you were playing.
Yeah, so that telly that I was playing is actually like a Nashville special American telly. It actually belongs to my best friend Craig, who's actually my roommate right now, and he's a internal medicine resident at UNMC. But he lets me play that thing. I'm about to buy it off him, but
yeah.
I play that one sometimes. My go-to is my Fender Strat, though.
Okay,
play that. Yeah, man.
Are you a gear nerd? Like, are you really into that?
A little bit. I'm not as much as like most people, because to me, I mean, you always hear like the tones in the fingers and blah blah, all the pedals and stuff.
For sure.
But I use like a couple pedals just depending on like what I want to do. I'll use like a tube screamer and like overdrive it kind of thing. And then we just got a sponsorship from Cattle and Bread, so I use a couple of their pedals.
Okay.
Dirty Little Secret I use there, and then their Echoplex pedal. And then that's just for like a little bit of delay and some grungy stuff. But otherwise, I just invested in a 1967 Fender Super Reverb, and that's been my only nerdy like pleasure, you know.
That was the dream rig.
Yeah, it is the dream rig. We had it cranked down today because we're in the studio. But.
Yeah, I mean that thing was up to like 3, and I think it was going to drown the whole thing out.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I almost couldn't hear you.
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy. So you guys recorded an album somewhat recently. It's been a while.
Yeah, it just came out in July.
Came out in July. Mm-hmm. Where'd you guys record?
We actually did it at Make Believe Studios here in Omaha with Rick Carson and Keith Rogers.
Now, we've only heard good things. How'd that experience go through it?
It was good, man. Like the experience at Make Believe, or the experience recording an album in general?
Both.
Well, the experience at Make Believe is wonderful. All those cats are super cool, good to work with. They have really good advice to help you. They want to bring the best sound out of you. Sure. And then often like finding the balance is like having someone that wants to change what your vision is. They didn't do that at all. They kind of just want to go with the flow, and then put really good content out. So 3 days we were in the studio. We recorded basically all the instrumental parts in like the first 1.5 days, and then I did all my vocals in 1 day.
3 solid days.
Yeah, 3 solid days.
An album in 3 days. That might be a record.
Well, so the funny stat that I just found out recently was Texas Flood, Steve Ray Vaughan's first album. Yep. He recorded that in 3 days too.
Oh, damn.
In LA. Yep. All right. So it's like, yeah.
Shows how little I know.
So it's just kind of like, well, yeah.
Now, is that the first time that you've had a studio experience? Is that the first album that you guys have done?
That's a first, I guess, like my debut album as like Sebastian Lane Band.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been in the studio. I've done work with a bunch of different artists throughout kind of my music career, and actually just initially being here, I was in a couple different bands that I've done some projects with. So it wasn't my first time, but I think the only person that it was first studio experience was Kevin, our drummer. He was pretty excited about that.
Yeah. The first time's always very surreal.
Yeah. I think it is every time. It
just introduces you into a completely different world right away. The second time, that splender's still there.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
But it's not like your first.
No.
Like
it's not like popping the cherry in the studio. It's never the same.
Yeah, well, we popped in. It's doing all right. The record's doing.
That actually brings me into my next question. So recording an album is quite a bit different as far as the marketing and everything after the actual recording process, just with the introduction of Spotify and digital mediums in general. Like, how do you guys feel combating that between like physical sales and
Yeah,
the digital side of things.
It's interesting. So there's like two sides to it nowadays, like where people it's a lot easier for people to put out content. So the market, I guess, can be kind of like saturated and that kind of thing. Sure. But it makes it easier for independent artists to be able to do their own thing without a label, and not having to worry about all that, as long as you kind of understand how it still all works. Getting like a good publicist and all that kind of stuff to help push your content. So on this one, I kind of just went with like the organic approach, just get some content out there so that we can get some more exposure, like not just here in Omaha and the Midwest, just make it available all over. So that's what we did, and now we are like just hit like 250,000 streams and sales all over the world. Most of people that listen to it are like in Europe. That's where I get most of my sales.
Europe's music scene is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, especially in the metal side. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
I think it's in general for
some
like
of the
that
festivals
kind of
out there are just like some of the biggest festivals, especially the ones that you'll see on YouTube, are almost always overseas.
Yep.
And we don't have a whole lot of big ones over here.
Yeah,
in the States.
it's crazy. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But no, it's even for like most artists that are kind of playing like the rock, blues, metal, that kind of stuff. The market's pretty big over in Europe for that, and doing a tour over there is definitely an end goal for us. Because awesome. We get like our sales reports and stuff from like iTunes and Spotify, and it's always like Switzerland, England, like that's literally the most of it, and then it's like Nebraska.
I mean, and it's so crazy because 20 years ago, thinking about having your album being like sold primarily in those areas was completely
like,
foreign to somebody. Exactly. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, and now the internet, Spotify, and then just like building up your other social media, like we were talking about earlier, Instagram, Facebook, and all that stuff. You can reach people literally all over the world. So.
Sebastian, we wish you the best of luck. I think you're going down the right path. Why don't you take a look into this camera and tell everybody what you got coming up.
All right. I guess the most recent upcoming show that we'll have is December 15th. We'll be playing in Lincoln for Nebraska Funk and Soul Alliance, and we'll be playing with Josh Hoyer there and a bunch of other amazing artists out of Lincoln and Omaha. And then I actually start classes back up in January, so I'm taking a little bit of a break, but we will have some more show announcements coming up. We actually have a show with Chris Lager and Josh Hoyer that is unannounced right now, but it'll come out soon.
Come out soon.